The arms here are, this is going to be the middle arm. This isn't perfectly proportional, but pretend this would be square. And the peg here is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. That's what goes into the arm. The whole piece here is 3 inches by 3 inches. Obviously, I've laminated 3 pieces of maple wood to make this arm here. The length of this is 24.5 inch long. The length of the arm, I'm making them 13 inches instead of 12 because 12 inches is really too short. It's for Cantonese sizes. Back 100 years ago, North America, people are usually taller and have longer arms, so I'm making my arms 13 inches long. So you center this in the center, 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. All you need to do is cut 2 cuts like this, 1 cut here, 1 cut there, and then cut another piece like this, 1 cut here and 1 cut there. You'll see it done later on in the video. Your circular saw might not go all the way past 3 inches. You might have to flip it to, once you cut on this side, you might have to flip it and cut on the other side. Or you can have a longer saw and just cut the other side. So when this gets cut, it's gonna look like so roughly that. It's gonna look like that. Pretend this would be square. So then the arms here, the top, the same line here that cuts the arm, I drew a line all the way to the end. Then I just draw a diagonal line from this corner to that corner. So this line gets disappeared, and basically I'm going to do a cut like this, like that. And on the side though, however, I'm not going to go corner to corner. On the side I'm going to go 3/4 of the way and draw a line there like this, and 3/4 of the way draw a line there like this. And that's going to be the middle arm. There's a slight difference in the 2 top arms, in that the pegs do not sit in the center. The peg sits at the bottom of this circle. This circle would be the circle of the arm that's going to be rounded off, let's say. However, the peg, the square peg that goes into the dummy, is set at the bottom of this circle. So all you need to do is draw a circle, and with the 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, draw this at the bottom of the circle. And the reason for that is that the 2 arms are going to be offset, and the arm at the bottom is going to be like this, and the top arm is going to be hanging over. You see what I mean when I show you my next video, that the arms are offset so that the 2 arms should be closer together. So when this gets cut, so it's going to look something like this. When it gets cut, the peg is going to sit lower on the arm than the middle arm. So this is how it's going to be done for the top 2 arms. And you'll see why that is later on. Say goodbye to this sander. It's been with me for, I don't know, over 15 years. Black & Decker. Served its purpose. I made a dummy with it before. I've sanded decks. I've sanded an entire floor with this. Unfortunately, it's met its match. Um, I blew a breaker, and I forgot that I left it on, and I placed it on the bench. I went to flip the breaker switch back on, and this thing just went shooting across my bench. Uh, Ate one of my gloves as it shot across my bench, fell on the floor. The glove went in, got stuck. Smoke was coming out of it. By the time I ran up to it and unplugged it, it was kind of burnt already. And after that, I worked on it, and it ran for another 10 to 15 minutes, but I kind of melted things in the motor, and the motor's burnt. There was pieces of melted stuff coming out of the motor, and if you turn it on out, it doesn't turn, and smoke just comes out of it. So this is done. It served its purpose, and I had to get a new one. I got a skill instead. It works just as fine. The last one was a 5 amp, I think, and this is like a 6 amp. And it's got some pressure sensitive light to show you how hard you're pressing on it, which is pretty good. And it's got some kind of filter that catches the fine sawdust. So I thought of buying something really expensive, spending over $100 or $200 for a Makita or whatever. But anyway, it not needed. Something like this at $70 or no, at $60, it was well worth the money. It works just the same, and it works even better. Really, at this point, it's just I'm eyeballing it so that the two arms are the same size. Ideally, you could obviously put this on a a lathe and make it perfectly round. Apparently I don't have a lathe. And this represents the forearm of someone else, of your opponent. And as you know, our forearms are not always perfectly round either. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. Anyway, people's arms are not perfectly round. So it's okay to just sand it, cut it down to this shape that you need. It doesn't have, just like the trunk, the trunk of the dummy, it doesn't have to be perfectly round. You need it to be round. You can sand it to as round as you like, but it doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly round. So it's the rest of the work here with the 3 arms. It's just a lot of sanding to the shape that you need to do. I have to compare the actual size of my arm with my old dummy arm. You see that even though I'm a small guy, the old dummy arm is somewhat skinnier than my arm. So I find that I'm not going to be fighting a guy with an arm that skinny. I want to train for fighting someone who's obviously much bigger than I am. So with my dummy arm, here on the side, you can see it's about the same size as my arm. It's about the same width as my arm here. And then this way, although this is thicker, but over here the forearm part is about the same size as mine. The wiggle part of this is just the way I want it. They all wiggle about 1 1/4. Give or take. Maybe even 1 1/2. It's okay to have it wiggle about 1 1/4 to 1 1/2. You need this kind of play so that there's a good feeling when you hit the dummy, and you will not injure your arm because you're going to be doing this daily. And there's got to be a certain amount of give. A lot of people, when they make their dummy, is they don't give enough of this wiggleness, and when you play the dummy, it just feels awful. If you want to really know the distance between here, it's really hard to say because it wiggles. There's no exact measurements. So if it was the closest, I would say from the center to the center, I am looking at around 7 1/2 inch. And considering that these are 13-inch long arms, and rested apart as far as possible, you are looking at around 9 3/4 inch from center to center. 9 3/4 inch. So you really don't need these measurements. If you do the dummy the way I've constructed it, I don't have to look at these at all. If you've done it this way, cut it this way, there's no need for measuring the angles at all. Every time these angles will come out perfectly. And that is the most crucial, the most important part of making a dummy, which most homemade dummy people gets wrong, are these angles when they try to drill into the dummy. You're never going to get a perfect drill, and it's very difficult to do if you do try that route. And a lot of people make the mistake of making the arms too wide. I've seen people making the arms so wide like this that it defeats the purpose of training your hands and attacking down the center line. A lot of people don't make it narrow enough. The narrower, the better. Obviously, if it's too narrow, you can't get your arm in. But most people, I've seen a lot of homemade dummies that they made this so wide that I'm sure that their center line is not there because they don't have that habit of forcing their elbow in. When it's at the correct size, I don't know if I can get this view here. When you put your arm here, you have to bring your elbow inwards so that your arm will fit this dimension to attack down the center. I need some simple dowels here to use as pegs so that it anchors these three arms and legs at the back of the dummy. Here are the dowels, 3 for the arms and 1 for the leg. There you go. This is the dowel. Comes in like this. Locks the middle arm. The dowel for the foot comes in like this. Locks the foot. And then the top locks the top 2 arms. Now the reason why we cut it like this, if you could see here, this here is lower. This peg sits at the bottom of this circle with a little bit of space left, and this sits at the bottom. This notch is to sand it off because it would interfere with the other arm on the top 2 arms. So this sits at the bottom so that when you put it in, this arm would be a little bit higher so that it would be closer to the other arm so that they're not offset too badly. As well, the other arm is made exactly the same as this one. It's made exactly the same as this one. They both sit lower, exactly the same, except when you mount it on the top hole, you make it hang down a little bit. So it hangs down a little bit so that when you put them together, the 2 arms are closer together. Otherwise, if you don't put this in the bottom of the circle, then these arms would be really far apart. So now when you do it offset like that, you do it this way so that there's not too much of a difference in terms of the height of the 2 arms.